Okay.
So we call our meeting to order. I have 6:33 on May the 30th. And we have Rich Bowman, Dan Batten, David Douglas, Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee members present, Kelly Hunter absent. And we, of course, have one opening on our committee. Everyone has seen the agenda. Do you have any additions, deletions, or corrections? If there are none, then I'd like a motion to accept the agenda as it stands.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Public comment. Nate, did we have anybody that registered? I noticed on the. Did I see? No. Do you have anybody that's registered?
No registrations via email.
Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda, the meeting minutes of our May 4th meeting. If you have any comments, changes, clarifications that need to be made, please let us know. I have none.
None here.
I have a motion to accept the minutes of our last meeting as written.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Kelly's joined here. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh, hi, Kelly. I did not see that she joined. Okay. Moving back to our agenda. Are we on the agenda? Yeah. Okay. First item for tonight's discussion is the Green Box Mayor's Forum, which is July the 3rd, and we discussed this in our last meeting. And we are we're not going to project or have a lot of slides like you had in the April 26th meeting. The preference of the Green Box organization is that we have more of a question and answer format or an interview type format where essentially we don't rely a lot on videos or overhead projectors or that sort of thing. So there's a lot of collateral materials out there that we've talked about in the past that are available, through Colorado State Forestry Service, through, and I know that when you had the April 26th meeting, David brought materials, and as I think Adrian Knight did as well. What I have put together so far is a one-sheet document that has all the links to the Colorado State Forestry Service collateral materials that homeowners need to have appropriate knowledge of what they need to do to prepare or harden their home or prepare their land or property for defensible space and the emission zone. One of the things that I also wanted to list was the names and phone numbers of all the committee members on the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee, and also including Nate as sort of the go-to person at the town town hall level. So the first thing I wanted to ask is if anyone has any objection to having your name and telephone number listed on this takeaway sheet. And Nate, I looked and I did not see that document. And I think I sent it to you, but it just didn't make it in our packet.
Yeah, it's strange. I'll bring it up here. I know I was doing a bunch of last minute stuff, but
Yeah.
I got it here. That's weird.
I would
There
say
we
that I
go.
would
Can you
prefer
see it?
Nate. Are you there? Sorry.
Sorry, can you see it now?
Yes.
Could you make it a hair bigger? Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would prefer name and email only.
Name and email only. Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Rich.
that number is also my El Paso County work number.
Uh-huh. Okay.
That's the only phone I have, and
Okay.
that would make me answer the phone a lot.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's why I wanted to run this by y'all before we get too far down the road.
Yeah, I would prefer email as well. I've had my name published once before, and calls all times of day and night just isn't right.
Okay. Nate, do you have any problem with being listed here as a contact?
Sorry, no, I don't.
Okay. Kelly, how do you feel about your phone number being listed?
I just asked you to unmute there, Kelly. I don't know what's going on with
Okay.
that setting.
Thanks. It wouldn't let me unmute. It said the host was not allowing it.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I do not, for the same reason. I don't want calls at all time of the day and night. But email would be fine.
Okay. All right. We will remove
And I
those
promise
phone
to check my email every 4 to 6 months, whether I need to or not.
numbers. Okay. Fair enough. We'll remove those phone numbers then before this is handed out at the mayor's forum on July 3rd. And as I was saying earlier, these are all links to the Colorado State Forestry Service on protecting your home site assessments, home ignition zone, and then, things like the National Fire Prevention Association. So these are all resources people can go to. I've got Steve Murphy listed for the fire district, and I don't have his contact information. If any of you do, I would appreciate providing that to people.
His office number is 719-684-2293.
22 what?
93.
I've got his email here somewhere.
David?
Yeah.
May I ask a couple of questions or not? I know I'm not a committee member.
Yeah.
I didn't see you in the chat. I just see Nick in the chat and Nate, I mean, in the chat. May I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. I would add, if you don't have it already, to the list of, in addition to Chief Murphy, I would put in the Andy Schlossberg of the Woodland Park, the the Forest Service Woodland Park office. I just ran an interview with him a couple of weeks ago that had a lot of information about, this. That's their reason for existence up there is to help people counsel there. It's not to go out and fight fires as much as it is to counsel people on what to do to mitigate their homes and stuff.
Well, I think if you'll look up further, you'll see that I put the Woodland Park office, David Paletti, Forester.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. All right. Well, as long as they're there, because they're good. I think they're really a good resource. Mm-hmm. So the other thing is on the Green Box, and I can talk about this more with Lamar, but the Green Box presentation, you're going to more or less just rely on opening it up to questions. Is that it?
Well, there will be, I'll be able to make a few projections. One of the things that I'm going to use is there's a link that is actually on our website, which shows the risk that Green Mountain Falls is statewide, being number one in risk for wildfire. And I think we're in the 99th percentile or 1%, how, depending on how you look at it, nationwide.
Yeah, yeah.
to-
So you're,
to give
yeah.
people-
Did you buy in? I mean, did you agree with Rich and me that we ought to like be, really bringing this home to people? I guess about the danger. I mean, the
Oh,
fact that
absolutely.
we're in worse
Yeah.
shape than paradise. We're in
Yes.
worse shape than paradise. Okay, but the other question, this is just a suggestion, and that is if you're opening up to questions, you might want to have 2 or 3 people you might want to plant some questions.
Mhm. Okay.
So to get the ball rolling, because I'm not sure that just somebody dropping in for the meeting is going to have a question on the tip of their tongue. But if you could have 2 or 3 provocative 2 or 3 provocative questions that people are already going to ask, that might help a little bit.
Good. Well, we'll do that.
Okay.
Kelly?
Would it be possible to put signage around town about the fire danger?
I thought we have postings around town for the current fire conditions. Do we not?
You?
Oh, yeah,
If we
don't
do,
remember
I
seeing
haven't,
one.
I haven't seen them.
No, I don't believe we do.
Okay.
I think that would be crucial. I also think we should ask for donations for mitigation.
That actually has been discussed, and the issue that I see right at the moment, and I'm in total agreement with that, because I think that this is this particular crowd that will be there are a lot of the green box visitors who are coming in, from other areas of the country, and this is their summer home. And I think they may be open to making donations. But I think when you ask people for a donation, you need to be as specific as you can in terms of what is that money going to go to do? And just to ask for a donation and say, we want a donation to go to the town to help with fire mitigation. I think we need to have our program a little more ironed out than just to ask for money. And
I mean, we already have an annual budget. I mean, we could just say that we're asking for donations to add to the fire mitigation committee annual budget, and that goes towards.
And it would go towards cutting down trees and in the forest and getting rid of all the dead standing trees and the beetle kill and all that, right?
Well, we could also say that it just goes to fire mitigation advisory committee projects, and that way we don't say specific, because we could use money for signage like you just brought up. So
Okay.
it wouldn't have to always go to just fire mitigation or like hazardous fuel mitigation. It could go towards, depending on how much people want to offer, it could
That's
go to
true.
all kinds of stuff.
What about helping people in need who need us financial assistance with fire mitigation, like cutting down trees, etc.?
I have to actually kind of disagree with David in saying that it's that we have something specific. I would
That's
say
okay.
that if we just used the terminology, that it would go towards fire fire mitigation advisory committee sanctioned projects. So if it's projects that we have voted on as a committee, as an official committee of the town, then we could leave it as vague as that. It's just that they know that we have to agree as a committee on what to spend the money on. But you know, if we could start getting down, you know, in specifics, then we kind of tie ourselves to that. Whereas if we say it's just going to go to our projects, then it could go to a myriad of things that we decide we could spend that money on. You know, we could maybe make a list of hypotheticals, but I wouldn't do that either.
I agree.
Okay. I'm actually open to doing this, but you all have given some very good suggestions of where this money might go. I wanted to try and capture them. One is signage to let people know the fire threat. Right?
Do we have anybody who acts as a treasurer for us, or is it just through the town?
We as a fire mitigation advisory committee do not have a treasurer because we don't control any funds.
So it would just be through the town then.
Yes.
I mean, that probably would make it even simpler. I mean, it's not something that we have to report out every month. Hey, this is what our, what our savings account is, and but yeah. I mean, if we ask, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we can even ask for donations legally. Can the city or the town take donations like that?
So there's a trail donation fund budget for revenue. So there's not anything specific to fire mitigation, but I don't think it's illegal. I don't know if it's tax. I think it's tax deductible, but I don't know if we're set up to like have that type of form, but we could look into that.
Yeah.
And if, maybe we could have some information in addition to fire danger signage, that if people wanted to make donations, they could be dropped off at the town hall. We could have a drop box or something like that that would be safe. Especially people that are coming up all the time to hike up here and come up here and enjoy Green Mountain Falls on the weekend with their families. It isn't just people who live here, it's people who use this space. You don't want to see it burn to the ground.
Well, you also have folks that are, this is their, this isn't their full-time home, it's maybe their summer cabin or something.
Right.
that might want to donate as well. But yeah, I don't know. I think maybe we have Nate or the town needs to have some things to look into before we commit to that. But I mean, it could potentially be a revenue stream.
We have an opportunity for Bronc Day too, possibly to set up if we can set up an informational booth with some folks, whether it's Chief Murphy, anybody on this committee, to sit there. There's potential again for donations, if that's even something that's possible, but at least to get the information out, like David was saying, that whether you look at it as a 99 percentile or 1 percentile type situation, like we're pretty much the worst. We can't get out of this town if something were to really, happen. So
I have a question. I forget when Bronc Days is. I'm going to be gone from the 6th to the 15th of July.
Bronc Day is July the 30th, Saturday.
Oh, great. All right. I'll be around. I would be happy to do that at the booth.
Better tell Margaret.
Peterson?
Why? I'll tell her that you want to have a booth. The fire mitigation wants to have a booth. Kelly,
Well,
let's you and I talk about this later. Okay.
I think the committee should at least vote on whether or not we're recommending that we have a booth.
I would second that.
Well, could you put it in the form of a motion, Kelly?
It's a wave. Yes, I would recommend that the committee have a booth at Bronc Days.
Okay. Do you have a specific purpose of for that?
For information, for handouts, for taking donations and the like.
Okay. So we have a motion for, on Bronc Day, the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee will man a booth that will be for information purposes and for accepting donations for anyone on behalf of the town from anyone that is making donations. Is that right?
Great.
Okay. I have a second.
I second.
So that's Dan. And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. I believe that is now. How do we do this? Does somebody need to? Somebody mentioned Margaret.
Yeah, someone's
let
gonna have
Margaret
to get a
know?
hold of the Brock committee.
I mentioned Margaret. Does this decision have to go to get a board approval first, or can you just start doing it?
I don't know for sure, but I would guess that the board at least needs to be made aware of it.
Yes. Okay. Margaret Peterson is the chair of the organizer, whatever, of the Bronc Day. And I'm going to be in touch with her anyway. I'm not an official member of the FMAC, but I could, if it's okay, I can pass that on. That and Kelly would
Or I
probably
could call her if you want.
yeah, if you know her. Yeah, sure.
Oh,
that'd be great.
I've known Margaret since my son was, well, probably since before he was born.
Okay, well then it's just a matter of letting her know that I guess that FMAC wants to have a booth, and she can tell you, you know, she'll probably have a form to fill out. Well, I don't know, whatever, but call
I
Margaret.
just realized I don't even have her in my phone. If you have her contact information.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Can you put in the chat your phone, well, I can
Yeah.
put in, put in the chat your contact information. I'll get it to you.
I think Nick is holding something up, although I can't read it.
I can't read it either.
He needs to be unmuted.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, unmute him.
Yeah,
Thank you.
once-
For some
There you
reason.
go.
Yeah, I can get in touch with Margaret Peterson. I just saw her today, a little bit earlier. I am helping out with that committee, that particular committee. The Chamber of Commerce, link there. The Fire Mitigation Committee can fill out an application. It's too easy and submit it. So there's that route, but certainly I can get in touch with her if you guys want. Unless David, unless you want to take point on that, to talk to Margaret Peterson at the booth.
Well, what I would like to do, number one, is Todd Dixon on the call tonight.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, he's there.
Todd, is this something that the Board of Trustees needs to approve?
Oh, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea, especially if you're taking money.
Okay. That being the case, we have a motion made and approved to participate. We will bring this motion to the Board of Trustees on the next meeting, which I think is a week from tomorrow. Is that right?
June 7th.
For consideration. And only after the board has given approval or not will we move forward with notification of Margaret. In the event that the board approves, then I would like to have someone on the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee to be the responsible person for whatever it is that we do in our booth. Can I get somebody to accept that responsibility, which includes filling out whatever paperwork Bronc Days needs to get us officially in, and then whatever materials you want to hand out, or a schedule for manning the booth, whatever it is you want to do. Do I have somebody that will take that responsibility?
Yeah, I should be available that Saturday.
Okay.
I will be too.
So, Kelly, does that mean you're also wanting to
Yeah.
To accept that responsibility.
Yeah.
Can we?
I'd be happy to woman the booth.
Okay, can we share the load on that? And as far as, it sounds like you have a relationship with people on the Bronx Days board.
I know Margaret. I'm not even sure who else is on the board.
Okay. Kelly, do you have my contact information?
No, but I could take it. Oh, wait a minute. Isn't it on the beginning of this?
It is.
Um,
$719. This is really testing my eyes. I'm doing this from my phone.
I'll lend you my glasses.
Oh man, what is that? Kelly GM at Comcast.net.
Kelly GRN, like green, like the abbreviation for green,
Gotcha.
at Comcast.net.
Okay.
And
then,
my
so
cell phone is 719-761-9123.
okay. All right. I will I'll get in contact with you then, I guess, after what do you think, David? After it's approved, or should we start trying to preload and just don't pull the trigger on anything until it's approved?
I would say you can preload, but don't make any official submittals until after the board has approved our participation.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm on a meeting.
Nate, will you open that link on the very first link? And then the wildfire risk link. Is that the one that shows this is what I was referring to earlier, that I'm thinking about for the mayor's forum, is showing this to our audience so that they can see just how dramatic the risk is for Green Mountain Falls. Have all of you seen this in the past?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay. Okay, Nate, I just wanted to, everybody think that that's shocking enough?
Yeah, it's a nice visual. Speaking of visuals, and going back to the potential of the Bronx Days, I don't think that we probably would be able to produce any kind of like a table banner or anything like that, probably in time. Is that something that we would be interested in if it was in time? Or
Table
Nate,
banner?
yeah, you know, like where you have for your booth, you set up your tablecloth that has you know, it's a drop that shows what your booth is, who you're representing. I mean, we're talking about putting together a booth. Most of the time your booth is labeled some way. I mean, unless we just have some, Nate, maybe you can answer this. If we have like generic town of Green Mountain Falls table drops or tablecloths.
Would you prefer to have something with the fire mitigation committee information on it, a banner? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, something to identify the booth as, hey, this is, you know, so some people don't just walk up and say, who are you? They could see us from across the parking lot and say, oh, that's the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. But I don't know that we could get something produced by July 30th.
Is school out there? Is school out yet in Green Mountain Falls?
Yeah.
Yes.
They got out last Thursday.
I was just wondering if you could just get like somebody could just get a big roll of paper and have some kids sit down and draw a banner or something like that, saying whatever you wanted on it.
I
don't
know my friend Dave makes t-shirts and stuff like that. I'm wondering if he also can make banners. I can check with him tomorrow.
Well, Kelly, since you and Dan are the co-chairs of this event, why don't we kind of leave that up to y'all to decide how to, whether you can do it or not in time. And, I'm not sure how we pay anybody to do it because we, unless the town grants us some funds to pay for a banner. Or
that's why I thought that the paper roll and just kids, I mean, it's like a community building thing. It's a community spirit sort of thing. If you were to get some kids involved in it, that was just my thought on it. They could still make it colorful and,
right. We're going to leave this up to Kelly and Dan to figure that out. And if y'all need funding, I suppose you can make a request to town hall for those funds to pay for it.
Yeah, we'll get something lined up. We'll get a price and a whole thing, and then that way, whenever if they approve it, then we'll say, all right, this is what we need.
Okay, sounds good. All right, moving on. Could you close that window? Thank you. And we're still on the mayor's forum and this handout. The other thing that I wanted to do was on that you just closed, Nate. There we go. Down at the bottom, I've listed other resources for people, and these are companies that we've talked about in our fire mitigation advisory committee meetings in the past, like Tip Top Tree Cultivation, Rocky Top Resources. These are all, Hope Restored, which made a presentation. The Firewood Ministry at Woodland Park Community Church. I mean, these are all resources that people could call and say, I need help. Some of them, they would have to pay for the services and some of them are free, but at least this, gives people somewhere to start to try and find resources. I think the disclaimer that we have there in yellow, we have a preliminary opinion that disclaimer is adequate for us to provide this list to people. We're not recommending anyone. We're just simply saying this is a resource. And what my question is, do any of you have any additions that you think we should put on this list?
Well, I guess the coalition, the Upper South Platte, has a slash receiving site up in Divide.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know that I would recommend it though. It's so much more expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trailer load that I would drop off at Rocky Top that cost me $5 to drop it off on a Saturday would have cost me $60 to drop it off in Divide.
Wow.
Looking at that, I think the yard waste and slash recycling for Rocky Top, you kind of need to make that a little clearer that you must deliver it. They don't pick it up or anything.
Okay.
And I can only see part of that Rocky Top Resources.
Hey, I'm sorry.
waste.
If I leave the meeting right now, it can still continue, correct? There's a quorum.
There is a quorum.
Okay, I'm fire duty officer tonight, and I just got a page. So,
okay.
I may not have to go. I'll take a pause here for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
So Rocky Top Resources takes yard waste and slash, and what do they cost?
Recycling.
They don't come and pick up anything. You can deliver your waste or branches or whatever to their site.
And what does it cost?
It's very cheap.
It's
$5
$5
for
per
a
load
truckload
on
or something.
Saturday.
Oh, that's the one that's down below, $5 per, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's over
Okay.
on, can't think of the name of the street.
I could look it up.
Well, we have the website there for
Yeah.
people to refer to.
Right.
But that's why we're providing this, so that people will have a resource list that they can go to learn more about services that are available.
Okay, and we've got Brandon Schofield. I know him.
Yeah, he
does
did
tree
some work.
service.
Yeah, he did some work for me recently.
Yeah, he's a friend of my son's, so that's good to know also. Did he say anything about what he charges?
Well, I can tell you that I had 2 trees removed, and both of the trees required scaling. And I had some trim. I had 2 trees limbed up, and it was $950.
Ouch.
Yeah, those guys aren't cheap.
Well, and I can check with my neighbor Ian next door. He does tree cutting and trimming and all that. He's actually worked with Brandon in the past and see if he might be willing to volunteer some of his services or do it for, maybe a reduced cost. I can check with Ian.
Okay. Well, Ian was who gave me Brandon's name when I contacted Ian myself,
Oh, okay.
because Ian is not insured. So if he does
Oh,
work for somebody, doesn't have any liability insurance, and he doesn't clean up, the slash and all
Right.
that. Whereas Brandon comes in, does the whole work, and when he's gone, everything's gone.
okay. Okay.
Okay. So I guess now at this point, I want to ask everybody, are y'all going to be able to attend the meeting on July 3rd? So that, and again, we probably need to have some little table or something where people can come and ask further questions at the end of the mayor's forum. So Rich, Kelly, Dan, can y'all attend on July 3rd?
Yes.
Yeah, I can be there.
Okay.
July 3rd, I would be on shift that day. I would have to, if I could attend, and I can't, I don't know if I can or not. If I did, it would have to be in a El Paso County capacity.
Okay.
And that'll be down at Church in the Wildwood,
No, it's at Sally Bush.
Sally Bush. Okay. I knew that. That was a test. You got that right.
What's the time frame for that again?
Greenbox Mayor's Forum?
Yeah. Todd, are you still on?
Yeah, I am, but hang on a minute. Let me see if I've got it on my phone real quick.
Oh, and by the way, it's that Rocky Top in the Colorado Springs. That's $5 per load, only on Saturdays, and that's only for private, private homeowners, not for companies.
My phone has the mayor's forum at noon, but I probably ought to double check it, make sure I've got it right.
And you have the first 30 minutes, and the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee has the next 30 minutes. Is that correct?
Correct.
It's 1 hour.
I may come in after you and do a little
Wrap up. Okay. All right. Are there any other questions or comments with respect to the mayor's forum? And we'll have one more meeting of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee before that occurs. So, sorry.
Sorry, that was my radio. Sorry.
Oh. So, I'd like for y'all to give this some more thought, and if you come up with any other additions of information that we need to add here, please let me know. Or things that would be resource materials we can actually refer to or use in our discussion. So we'll finalize this at our next meeting.
And when is our next meeting?
It's the fourth Monday or the last Monday of each month.
Last Monday of each month?
Yeah. So June 27th.
June 27th. Oh, crap.
Really testing my eyes.
You know, I'm going to have to ask for a change in that date.
So not June 27th?
Yeah, I have a pretty significant event that night. Okay. Well, anyway, we'll come to that in a minute.
Okay.
Next on our list. Okay. In our last meeting, and we're moving on to item 6 on our agenda. In our last meeting, we talked about rights of way clearing and fuels mitigation. We talked about doing that with volunteers, and Todd Dixon was on the call at that time. Todd made some recommendations to the committee that what we really need to do is define work scope and the skill sets required for volunteers. And that needs to be prepared as a document that can be submitted to ensure that the city is covered under a liability insurance. And Todd actually went so far as to write the document, which I've included in tonight's agenda pack, that I'd ask everybody, I think in a separate email, if you would look that over. And so can we go to that document real quick, Nate? So you can see this is the general format. It sort of explains what the project is, what the scope of it is, what the volunteer workforce would be, how many, what the descriptions of the jobs are that are required, and then for each of those positions, what skill level, or what training, what equipment, what sort of protective equipment would be required, all those sort of things. So this is a great template that I think, my understanding is, we are rolling out for use by all committees in the town where we have a volunteer workforce. Is that a correct statement, Todd?
Yeah, really, this is more of a conceptual type plan, and I just basically jotted down whatever came to mind.
Right.
The real bottom line is we just want to make sure we don't have someone doing something that they probably shouldn't be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then in addition, what this allows us the capability to do is we can send this in the SRSA and we can have them price out what it may cost us for, say, a workman's comp plan to go along with it, because we don't have that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everyone's on their own. And so that allows us this ability as well.
So has everybody reviewed this in advance of our meeting tonight?
Yeah, I read over it.
Any comment? I'm looking for comments from anyone. Once you read this, what were your initial thoughts?
I thought it made a lot of sense. It clearly covered, the kind of things people would be doing and their skill sets. I'm glad to hear that we're going to have some kind of workman's comp available for them. Do we already have volunteers to do this?
No, we do not.
Okay. How are we going to get them?
Well, I think the first step is we need to make some decisions as a fire mitigation advisory committee, what projects we want to a projects list that we want to develop. And once we have that list developed, then we want to go out and begin letting people know that we have various projects that people can participate in as volunteers. And the right-of-way project would be one on that list. But I think for right now, we need to sort of develop our plan going forward so that we can say to people who volunteer, this is what is required. Here are the skill sets required. Here are the number of people that we need to do this particular job, and just have a program that we have put together.
I read over the thing, excuse me. I think it's a pretty good document. Probably the only question I had through the whole thing was chainsaw certification. Who's going to be doing that? And what do we accept as a certification?
That was just me pulling something out of thin air. I don't know if there is such a thing as a chainsaw certification, or, it's just a matter of what would we feel comfortable with, and especially the FMC, for a person to be able to operate, say, chainsaw type equipment on the right of ways.
Yeah, I'm getting a very uncomfortable feeling about this. Sorry.
Yeah, there are certifications available, and they're not easy to get. And it goes in 3 categories, I think, still.
Yeah, you have a faller 3, 2, and 1, but and those are NWCG, National Wildland Fire Coordinating Group certifications. I'm sure there are arborist certifications that I don't know of. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on this, but when I think of volunteers for this type of work, I'm thinking mainly just unskilled labor, people who can pick up sticks and pile them or drag them down the hill, that kind of stuff. When I think about rights of way mitigation and clearing, most of the time, especially on shelf roads that we have a lot of in Green Mountain Falls, that a lot of that work, especially the downslope side work, needs to be done by machinery. And also a lot of that, you mentioned the power lines in there. We shouldn't be working anywhere near power lines unless you're a licensed and insured company. So I had printed out this document, and I unfortunately I left it at the office, and I'm unprepared to look at and to speak to all the details of it, but I can look it over more diligently and give feedback via email.
Dan, I think your comments are very valid concerns. And Todd wrote this from a standpoint of giving it his best shot, given the information he had and understands.
Sure.
He's not an expert in this area, although I think he did a fantastic job of preparing a document that could be a template from which we work. There's nothing in here that says we have to allow volunteers to do cutting. If we as a committee believe that that is not a wise idea, then it is up to us to develop a list of the things that the town needs, where we could recruit volunteers, and then we decide on what the scope of that work is within the parameters of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee's responsibilities.
Yeah,
So,
I think that if we can get SAW teams and stuff like that to go into areas and do the technical work, and then we have volunteers to help remove the biomass, I think that would be a good fit for volunteers, just people that could go and pick up sticks, because getting a little bit injured with a chainsaw is like getting a little bit pregnant. It doesn't really work that way.
Well, that's a good segue. We have Don Walker on with us tonight. And I'm going to jump a little bit into our further into our agenda because I think this is appropriate. On the Mile High Youth Corps co-swap grant, the final grant application that went in and was approved essentially states that Green Mountain Falls, the town of Green Mountain Falls, will be responsible for the slash and log removal for that project. And Don Walker volunteered to put together volunteers to do that work. And as an example of exactly what we're talking about here in developing a scope of work, how many volunteers are needed, what are the skill sets required, Don has written that project scope and it's part of our agenda pack tonight. And so since we have Don on with us, he's written this document. Don, could you provide a little color on that?
Sure. Thank you, David. I appreciate your invitation, and I'm happy. My official capacity is on the PRT for the city. However, I'm not in that capacity here at your meeting. I'm just a concerned citizen who was asked to write an action plan for coordinating a volunteer workforce to coordinate with the Mile High Youth Corps in their effort in their fire mitigation through the co-swap development grant. So I hope everybody's had an opportunity to look it over. Basically, what I did was I took the contract and I delineated the scope of the work in a very simple, understandable way. And as David pointed out before, the town is responsible for assisting Mile High with the work in order to maximize their labor, contractual labor, and mitigating the forest. And so that's all in the red print, and I even underlined things in the contract that were the most important portion. For instance, the main scope or the main prescription, as David Paletti had prescribed, was in removing the dead and dying Douglas fir. So after understanding what the scope of their contract work is, I developed the process that they will use in carrying out their deliverables. And that is the selection of the trees, the felling of the trees and the vegetation, the limbing, scattering, the bucking, the bunching, and the yarding. And I sectioned out the Mile High's responsibility, which is selection, felling, limbing, scattering, bucking. The bunching is not required in this layout. Green Mountain Falls responsibility in this effort would be the yarding and the chipping. This could all be accomplished with 2 teams of 3 men, consisting of a yarding team and a donkey team. The yarding team, basically, there's a wincher, and he would be the designated field manager who runs the tow line, and then 2 swampers just helping out the wincher. The donkey team is the team that's up on the mountainside, and they'll be locating the bowls and attaching a tow line for skidding. And basically you'll have 1 foreman, which is the skidder, and 2 swampers who are helping the skidder attach the chokes to the bowls. And they will essentially tow the bowls. And there is an exceptional, if they come across large limbs that can be towed, we'll tow those down as well, along with the bowls, to be chipped and cut up, and the bowls cut up for firewood. So The last page are the resources that are required to accomplish this. Winching truck, drum winch, tow line, return line, walk and tackle, choker chain, skid, timberjack, fire extinguisher, and staging yard, of course, the wood chipper, all of which are available to me and the group, the volunteer group, with the exception of the wood chipper, which I understand the city has or the town has and might be available for use.
Don, as it relates to the wood chipper, would we have to provide wood volunteers to operate or assist with the wood chipper?
I can tell you this from my own personal experience. The way the state does it is they recruit volunteers. They'll have one foreman, just one foreman that's been trained to operate the wood chipper, and then the rest are volunteers that are, that are bringing up the limbs and have been instructed in the safe manner to feed the limbs to the chipper.
So where do those volunteers fit into your two categories of yarder and donkey?
It'd be the swampers. The swampers on the winching team. They're in the yard. That's where the chipper will be. And so presumably the yard will be full and ready for a chipper. So we're not winching. So the wincher could be the foreman or the manager for the chipper.
I have a question.
Yes.
People use wood chips in their yard all the time. Could we sell them?
Well, better yet, from the city that I came, there was a community area that people brought their slash, and the city or the town chipped it for free. And they kept the piles for landscaping purposes.
That'd be great.
Yeah. All we need would be, from the town would be an area that we could locate the chipper or bring the chipped, if we're on site in the yard, bring the chip debris to the stocking yard for people to come and get that whenever they want to use it for their landscaping purposes. Not like we save, disposal fees.
Could I just interject here a minute? I'm pretty sure that in the Colorado State Forest Service information and everything, they advise against wood chips simply because it's fuel. They want people to go to rocks and non, things that won't ignite. So I'm just putting that in.
You're referring to the ignition-free zone around the house. Anything that's flammable is I think what you're saying, right, Carolyn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, anything around the house. Yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
I'd have to look it up, and I'm pretty sure it's in the Forest Service says that someplace.
Yeah.
It makes sense, actually.
Well,
Could we sell
nevertheless,
it?
it is.
Could we bag it and sell it? I mean, it would be another way to bring in some money.
I couldn't answer that question. That'd be more
You're
for
kind
David.
you're kind of entering into business for the town then. And I don't know that we could actually do that because you're going to end up with a whole lot of bags of chips that you don't know what to do with. Normally when the fire department did all the fire mitigation stuff, we made the chips available to the local residents and very few of them ever took it.
Huh.
So we paid to have it hauled off.
Okay.
So, which begs the question, we do all this chipping, where does it go?
Normally you can stack it temporarily and wherever you're chipping, and then you have to haul it off.
So
you can
Kelly
either
and some other
Rocky
people
Mountain
who,
Resources or places like that.
okay, Kelly and some other of the residents up on Mountain Ave have agreed to allow access across their land to bring the slash down. And my understanding is we would have the chipper at that site to do the chipping. So that chipping, as it comes out the other end, is going to go somewhere. Is it going to go into the back of a truck, or is it going to go into, where does it go?
That was my vision of how the process would work. Just have another town truck there that it's blowing the chips in, so they could take it to wherever they want to stockpile it for public use.
No,
Forgive me. Is that in the list of equipment?
no.
No, it's not.
The truck.
Is it what?
I think, oh, I know it was the truck that pulled the chipper up. That's where it is.
Okay.
But it's not
So-
technically listed, no.
What, if I went to places like Tractor Supply that sells wood chips and asked them if they would want them? I mean, I don't know that's even feasible, but what do you think?
No, they normally don't want them
Okay,
because then they have to bag them. It costs them labor and
Ah.
everything else to bag them. So they
Okay.
normally do not want any of that.
No, I'm just
It's basically a waste
hearing this.
and it's kind of treated that way.
So Don, in your scope of work, what do we do with this waste stream once we've put it in the back of a truck?
The town has a free outlet, which is Woodland Park wastewater treatment place. They take chips for free. I don't know how much they take at one time, but they use them in their digesters. So that's one place that the town sometimes takes chips.
So I'm assuming, Nate, as a spokesperson or an employee of the town, in this case, the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee is presenting a scope of work which will encumber town equipment and employees to operate the equipment and to haul the, is there any, what is your opinion in terms of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee's recommendation of this scope of work to the trustees for approval?
I know that, I mean, Becky and I have talked about it, the logistics of it, and scheduling time for Public Works staff to be available. So I don't know that it needs to necessarily go to the board, but like Todd said earlier, I guess just have a report or something, and I can talk with Becky about it to make sure she doesn't want it to go to the board for a formal decision.
Okay.
I'd like to point out that I believe that there won't be a great deal of slash to deal with respect to a chipper. Most of it will be bowls, and that'll be cut up for firewood.
Okay.
Most of the slash will be scattered for, decomposition purposes and promoting a healthy forest.
Oh, that's great.
So this is an obligation that the town of Green Mountain Falls has under the COSWAP grant. Because it is a fire mitigation or a fuels mitigation project, then the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee is responsible for this project and for carrying it out. Don, are you, I mean, this was originally your idea, and you have said many times that you can go out and find the volunteers to assist. Are you, as part of this, are you willing to continue to work with the, as maybe the project lead on this?
I don't know if I deserve a title such as that, because I don't want to violate any of the town codes for, you know, one person, one committee. But I am perfectly willing to help you, David, in forming our teams that we need to retrieve the biofuel off that mountain. And it's no secret, guys. It's about relationships. That's what a volunteer workforce, how one develops a volunteer workforce. It's just like, hey, I met Dave, and Dave met me, and we got along good together, and we exchanged ideas, and I think I can help him, and he thinks he can help me, and that's, you know, and I know somebody else that he doesn't that will help, and that's how it works. I found, you know, in my experience, just posting an ad that said volunteers wanted is not very successful. So I'd encourage everybody to talk to your friends and those that are able-bodied and want to help our community and make it safer. Bring them on.
The action that's required tonight is that the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee consider this scope of work and accept and approve it for implementation by the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. So that is the issue at hand with this particular scope of work. So with that backdrop, do I have any comments from the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee?
I think the scope of work was done very well. Most of the stuff that he's described is not that difficult. You kind of got to be careful with the chipper as far as dragging and stuff like that. It's not that difficult. It can be done by unskilled labor. So I don't see any real big problem with it. It would be nice to have a couple people on there that know how to do this stuff and have done it in the past. But other than that, I think it's a good scope of work.
Okay.
So if we know people that are willing to volunteer, should we direct them to you, Don?
I think that you're developing a process within your own committee that I can ultimately be in contact with. I don't want to be the point man outside your committee. There needs to be somebody, I think, within your committee that's has dialoguing with me on scheduling and that sort of thing. And while we're on that subject of scheduling, I failed to point out that our part in bringing that biofuel as it's laid out in this scope of work is next summer, so that it has an opportunity to season and obviously lose a lot of weight and sap. So it's much easier to handle and bring down, and it'll be ready to leave the yard as soon as it comes down.
Okay.
That sounds pretty good. The reason I've been kind of quiet on it, I have to have surgery on my ankle at the 1st of August, so my mobility is going to be rather limited. I wouldn't mind doing it if next summer, because I'm going to have the other one operated on next fall or next spring. So my mobility is a question. If the
Rich,
surgery I get done and it's good, I'd be glad to do it.
Rich, let me put a question to you this way. Would you be willing to be the committee point person for coordination purposes if it did not involve working at the field level? In other words, you're helping to coordinate the volunteers, the scheduling and that sort of thing. And Don, would you then be the field overseer, supervisor?
Yes, I think that'd work well.
Yeah, that'll work out fine. And this probably won't even start till spring of next year.
Right.
Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, as soon as the snow melts off,
Yeah.
yes, we can start working in.
So all the slash is going to be left up in the forest till next year?
Yeah.
Okay. And so back to my question, if I know people who are willing to volunteer, should I just start compiling a list, or is there someone I should?
Yeah, it would
Coordinate
be
that
better
with?
if, it would be better if you compile a list and just send it to me. And then I
Okay.
can talk to Don and
Perfect.
we can coordinate that a little bit better
Perfect.
and just put on there what it's for, or I'll forget.
Okay.
Okay, and so I suppose the same could be true for any of us. If we come up with a volunteer that says, hey, yeah, I'd like to participate in that, we will forward that to you, Rich, and you'll be
Yeah,
the
if you could
keeper of
just
the
forward to me and then I can compile all their information that we have volunteers.
Okay.
And then I can get with Don and we can determine what these volunteers are able to do. I mean, if they're 93 years old, they probably don't need to climb the mountain, but there might be something they can do.
Okay.
So if you could give us a little bit of information about them, would be nice. Not necessary, but it would be nice. If not, I can contact them.
What
Rich,
kind of information, like what experience they've had?
Yeah, any kind of experience I've had. Health would be nice. Is their health good?
That's where relationship comes in. Okay, so you know if they're good in physical shape or not, and if that's the kind of work they like to do. Rich, I sent you my telephone number in the chat.
Okay. Okay.
And Rich, what, I don't have your contact information.
It should be right there at the top on where all that other stuff was. If not, I
Oh.
can send it to you.
Nate, will you send this to all of us as an attachment?
Yes, I can do that.
Well, but one of the ideas that I had was that we as a committee need to have each other's phone number and email address. So if you could redact that bit right there, Nate, and I can do it, and just, send this out to everybody so that we each have the other's phone number and email address. Is that
Yeah,
what you're
that'd be
asking for,
great.
Kelly?
Huh?
Yeah, I said, is that what you were asking for?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. I will do that.
Don, did you email that to me or put it?
It's in the chat box. Just click on that chat and it should
I'm
come
on
up.
it. I can't find you.
Oh,
I don't
You
see it
may not
either.
be able to-
I
Don.
don't see it.
The
I see
chat
it.
settings are not, I'll add it to the
I can see the chat on the very bottom underneath the memo you have up. Oh, yeah, if I just hover the arrow down below that memo that you have up, Nate, I can see that then all that stuff, chat, participants, all that. You can see it on the bottom of my laptop.
Don, just email it to me. I'll get it off that.
okay. I think Nate's adding it to your list.
So to recap, we have a scope of work, and this is a contractual commitment that we have as a town. And the performance of this is by the end of 2023. So that's the time frame. We have Rich Bowman is the committee member who is taking on this responsibility for this project, and will be the coordination function in working with Don Walker who will be the volunteer overseer and will work through Rich Bowman in the relationship with the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. Does everybody agree with that restatement of what we've done here? So I have a thumbs up from Don. But could I just get a yes or no from Rich,
It sounds good.
Kelly, and Dan?
Got it. Sounds good.
I'm in favor of it. Todd, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Does this need to be presented to the trustees?
My personal opinion is no, because it's already a contract and there's already a stipulation within the contract that's already been approved.
All right.
That's my take on it.
Okay. So let's go ahead and let's take this document up maybe next meeting or the one after, since this really doesn't kick off for a while, and give everybody a chance to further review on this. And if you want to make any changes to Don's scope of work, let's review it again in a subsequent meeting to make sure that we're happy with the final document and make it an official document.
Yeah, and I'd say, David, when you get something that the FMC is happy with, go ahead and send that in to staff. We may explore whether or not we want to try to get like a workman's comp rider.
Okay.
Not already in there somewhere.
Okay. Very good. So this was an excellent example of what we started off talking about, which is, a project definition, a scope of work, the skills required, and the resource, equipment, and human resource requirements of a job. This is a real example. This is what we're going to work towards. So Nate, can we go back up to the list that's in the agenda of potential volunteer groups and requirements? And I, much like some of the other work that's been done here tonight, I just threw this together based on previous discussions, but we've talked about getting the district fire department's chipper and making it available to town residents. We, as a town, have a chipper, but in both cases, if we want to offer a volunteer chipper service for the residents of Green Mountain Falls, we are going to have some volunteers to help man that. If we want to have a volunteer group that helps homeowners do some form of fuels remediation around their home, we are going to need volunteers for that, and we're going to need a scope of work, and we're going to need to know what skill set they need. We've talked about slash, logs, and debris removal. We've talked about right-of-way mitigation. We've talked about, we haven't talked about an assessment team or an education team, but to me, these are all part of the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee responsibilities. And what I would propose to this group is that we begin a process for planning volunteer projects like this, which will benefit everyone, the town and its residents, by offering these things through a volunteer program. But for us to do that, we're going to have to write job descriptions, scope of work, resources, all those kind of things as a preamble to kicking these programs off. So I'd like to hear some discussion on that. Good idea, bad idea, whatever.
Just one quick thing. The fire department does not have a chipper. That belongs to Northeast Teller County Fire, and they're willing to let Green Mountain Falls use it. but it has to be on scheduled dates, which is only about 4 or 5 days in a year's time.
Becky has taken it as her responsibility to get that a chipper. I'm not sure which chipper it is. A chipper dedicated to us on a certain schedule, so that we know when we have access to it, and it's usually a week at a time, according to what Becky has already told me.
And that
And
could be possible.
And that shipper would be driven on a route through the town during the week. All people would have to do is pile up their materials on the side of the road, and we would drive the chipper around town, and everywhere there's a pile, we'd stop and chip it. That's the concept of the program. The other consideration we have is utilizing the town-owned chipper in a set location where people could bring their slash and potentially have it chipped by town employees. Now, what I'm saying here is we as a committee need to decide which of these programs we think are good ideas, which ones that we want to plan for in the future and write a scope of work for, whatever that is. So,
David, did you say that the chipping project would be, it would be town employees that would be running the chipper and driving it around?
Again, I don't have an answer for any of these.
Okay.
This to me is, we as a committee need to decide what projects are important, and then we define what the scope of work is and how the resources are obtained for getting the work done.
Okay.
I would definitely open up a line of communication with Kyle. I did run it by him a little bit about the chipper situation. He can sharpen the blades. There's a few parts that need to be replaced, because I was just kind of curious as to what kind of condition it was in. He's got a lot of really good ideas too, I believe, in like trying to remove the chips. I mean, yes, they do have a truck. I mean, there are some assets that maybe we're not tracking that he is. So that might be something for you guys to collaboratively, get with Kyle, because he's already tracking all, pretty much the scope of the work and everything that's, going to be going down here with the Mile High Youth Corps. So you guys could always reach out to him. He could be one of the foremen. Nothing for nothing. I mean, it may not have to just be a stationary, machine, right? If he can get it working, maybe we could still utilize that around town as well. Into that.
Well, it occurs to me there might be some people who aren't able, just simply because they don't have the proper vehicle, to bring their slash somewhere. So if we were driving it around and they knew on certain days that chipper would come to their street, that might be easier.
Yeah.
Because if you're driving a little Volkswagen, I mean, how do you get that?
Well, that's the idea of the chipper that you get from Woodland Park. You drive it around wherever people have stuff stacked, and then you chip right back onto their property. And then it's their responsibility to get rid of the chips, either a bag full at a time in their trash, or use it in drainage mitigation or whatever.
Yep.
But that's sometimes the easiest way to do it. If you have a set site, it gets pretty hectic. I mean, you pretty much have to have set days if you have a set site, because you'll have people dropping stuff randomly all the time.
Any thoughts on this list of 6 items? Are there some of these that we don't need, or there's some, do we need to add to this list? What are y'all's thoughts on having volunteer programs, and is this the right list?
I think you're on the right track. I'm looking at these projects, and I'm thinking that, you know, there needs to be some oversight with the chipper, but could be a mix of volunteers and qualified personnel. Homeowner assistance, I mean, that's a little vague, but I think I understand what you're saying, you know, basically just whatever they need as far as cleaning up their yard. Am I understanding that?
Yeah, it would be somebody that, let's just say it's an elderly couple that don't have the physical skill set. They're interested in having somebody come and do an assessment and tell them, you know, what needs to be cleaned up within the ignition zone, what needs to be done in the defensible zone.
Yeah. Are
And
you talking
you
about the
have people-
assessment teams?
well, that would be the first step, but then the second step would be, now I need to get this done. Does the town have a group of volunteers that will come and do this for me?
You know,
Yeah.
it occurs to me that if it's senior citizens, I could contact the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging, and they may have people that would come volunteer to do that.
Well, we have Byron Spinney with Hope Restored who also will do that.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the first three, A, B, and C. A being a volunteer and qualified personnel mix, B and C being more volunteer centric. I would say the right-of-way mitigation is probably not something that we want. That's going to be more technical. And then the assessment teams and the education teams, I think you could have volunteers, but they need to be qualified to do assessments and qualified to educate.
I wouldn't give up on the right-of-way mitigation assessment. I mean, right-of-way mitigation. I think we could do some assessments and there might be some right-of-way mitigation we could actually do. Small type stuff, if it's around power lines or something of that nature, or large trees, obviously not. But there's some power or some right-of-way mitigation around town that could be done relatively easy.
Doesn't the utility company do that?
No,
Oh,
they only clear their own line.
okay.
Yes.
If you all had to rank order these 6 items, how would you do it? What would be number 1? And I'll tell you what, let's take this as a next meeting exercise. I want y'all to take this list, and if you think we shouldn't do it, strike it out. If you think there's something we need to add to the list, put it on, but rank order it on what you think the most important thing is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, etc. And let's try to come up with a prioritized list of volunteer projects that we as the Mitigation Advisory Committee want to, you know, put forward as a future project development. Could we do that? And what I'd like for you to do further is to say, I would be willing to be the lead person on that particular project. And for example, you got Rich, who in essence has already said, I've got item C because he's taken the responsibility for the co-swap and Mile High Youth Corps program. So sort of by default, Rich has already taken that one. But
Well, and I guess that we're also talking about the education team, and we'd be doing that at Bronc Days.
yeah, what I had in mind there was really what we did on April 26th, and we will be doing again at the Mayor's Forum. What I really envisioned in that education process was to develop a program that we would schedule on some routine throughout the year to provide, you know, some means of education of the public, because Rich made a very strong argument, I think a couple of months ago, that one of the key elements of what we do needs to be public education. And there's so many aspects of information that need to be effectively disseminated to the public. And that's really what I thought this education team should focus on, is how do we do that? What is the program?
Do we have flyers?
No.
If we
We got-
had flyers with the information on it and we put it in everyone, mailed one to every,
Okay. You can't
Can't do that.
you can't do that.
Yeah.
oh,
You can't put mailers in somebody's post office box. The post office will not require it unless you pay for it.
okay. We could post flyers in the post office. Everybody has to go to the post office. No?
Nope.
Nope. Can't do that either.
Post office is not a good partner.
So my thought is that we're not going to solve those particular issues. What I want to think about is the what are the priorities? What should they be? And then let's say as a committee, we're going to move forward with those and have assigned committee members that are responsible for developing each one of those. So if Kelly, let's just say you say, I'm going to take on the education team and I'm going to develop that program. You would decide all those things. You would decide whether or not we have flyers. And if we have flyers, how do we get them distributed to people? How do we pay for the flyers? What do the flyers say? What, are we going to have some kind of public forum every quarter at Sally Bush? And who are the speakers going to be? And what are they going to talk about? It's a complete program of education.
And homeowner assistance was helping people with, in their yards and,
Yeah, it would be developing a program that would be volunteers who have this would be our scope of work. We're going to go in and we're going to help remove flammable materials from around the deck, or we're going to help cut the grass, or we're going to remove ladder fuels, and that's going to be the scope of work. And how many people are going to do that? When are they going to be available to do it? All those kind of things. So again, it's saying this is a program we as the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee want to put in place, and we're going to develop what that looks like in terms of a scope of work. And we should have, each one of us should take one of those and say, I'm going to be responsible for developing that program and bring it back to the committee for critique, for input, and for final approval. And then we can start, rolling out and saying to people, we've got these programs available to the community.
All right, so action item is to prioritize this list. Basically, delete things that either we don't think or that we should keep, or add things also.
Yep.
And then volunteer to manage or take on at least one of them. Is that?
Yes.
All right.
For the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
oh, you don't want that tonight. Okay.
No. Okay, so any other discussion on that? Nope. Okay, let's move on to item 7, top 3 funding requests from the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee. So if you all said, we really, if we're going to ask people for money, or we're going to fund something and we wanted funds to be available to us, what would the top 3 be? What would be the things that we say, these are the most important things aside from grant money? We're not talking about going to get a grant. We're just saying, if you had the ability to walk up to somebody and say, I need some money for this, what would it be?
Emergency notification.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Excuse me.
Okay, that's one.
Are you
I guess
talking about a siren?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, siren or whatever we want to spend money on, but I mean, we had already kind of determined that a siren might be applicable in our town. So that would, I would say the general umbrella of emergency notification, siren included, would be priority number one in my mind.
Okay. What would be number two?
Off the top of my head, I would say signage.
And that signage would be to provide information to the residents as to what the current fire hazard is, or is that?
Yeah, I would say I like a fire danger rating, like you see in the Forest Service, where they have kind of that half moon dial that shows from low to extreme.
Yep.
But also, I wouldn't mind seeing some signage with like escape route, or you know, like the community safety zones, some of the stuff that we established on the evacuation plan. That, I mean, I think we could discuss what actually goes on the signage, you know, in another meeting, but just as a general funding request, I think signage would be good.
Okay. What about, well, what else? I don't want to preempt anybody.
Did you say the town owns a chipper?
Yes.
Okay.
If we, the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee, could direct funds to be spent out of a pot of money, what else could you think of that you would want to spend money on?
To pay people to take down the trees that need to be taken down.
Say again, Kelly?
To pay people to take down the trees that we don't have enough volunteers to take down.
So you're saying where it would require skilled fellers to remove a tree, we would have a fund to pay for that?
Or even if it didn't pay for the whole thing, even if it was like a scholarship kind of thing. Maybe the homeowner paid part and we paid part.
We talking about spending money on private land?
Yep, I think that's what she's saying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Because the first thing we want to defend is our homes.
I personally believe there's a real need for that, because I've heard too many people say, I can't afford to remove the diseased and dying and dead trees from my yard.
Right.
I can't afford it. It's a hazard to the rest of us.
Exactly.
So if we could help people through a fund to remove nuisance trees, which is, by the way, a town ordinance, you know, is that something we would want to have discretion over as a committee?
Yeah, I mean, if we could raise enough money to do that, that would be great. I mean, I guess maybe when you ask that question, you know, the first thing that pops in my mind is like, well, is this pie in the sky request, or is this like a realistic request? Because if it's pie in the sky, then I would say, yeah, let's set up a fund that can help people in need for getting mitigation work done on private land. I think that there's going to be a run on the bank that you've never seen, though, if we start saying that we're offering money for that.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, again, it has to be a program that we define what the program is and what the qualification requirements are under that program for people to participate. So it wouldn't just be here's some money, all you have to do is ask for it.
I would say that if we had money to spend, and we had real money to spend, I would want to spend it on somebody that's like a professional grant writer, somebody that could actually commit time to not. So instead of spending money and creating a fund that I assume would probably be a relatively small fund, hire somebody or contract somebody, subcontract somebody to search out government funding that could be used for the same purpose.
That's a
So-
good idea.
Okay,
And that's partly what I was talking about when I said, if you're talking about seniors who don't have the ability to pay for things like that, somebody like the Pikes Peak Area Agency on Aging might have funding for that. When I managed the Teller Senior Coalition, there was a woman who had like 7 huge trees on her property that had to be removed, and we paid for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example. I mean, there's money out there that's available, but I don't know how to get it, and nor do I have the time to learn or try to get it. I don't know that a lot of people on this committee would be able to do that and have the expertise for it.
I can contact the Area Agency on Aging and see if that's even a possibility.
Yeah, well, I mean, but to answer David's question about what we'd like to spend money on, you know, if we could find somebody or I mean, I can't imagine that could come up with enough money to hire somebody full time. But if you spend money on somebody to find more money, you know, that's, I mean, because it seems like everything we want to do boils down to money, and it boils down to expenses.
Yep.
So, I mean, if you have a professional, even if it's on a temporary time frame, or if we, like I said, we subcontract out or we hire a firm to do it, you know, do a project type thing, an annual project. I think that would be money well spent, potentially, as long as they were able to find, you know, grant opportunities or things like that, or write grants for us.
And there's a lot of that out there. You know, FEMA has national preparedness grants. DOLA has community services block grants. Elpamar Foundation has competitive grants for communities. But you just got to know wherever all this stuff is and how to fill it out. It's time consuming and it's difficult.
And you have to know how to write the grants. I mean, I've written grants. I just got a job as a grant writer for one of the little schools up in Woodland Park. So I don't have the time to do it, nor do I have the experience to do government grants. I've never done those.
They're no fun.
Actually, grant writing is kind of fun
I hate it.
in a twisted kind of way.
I think if we're wishing for money, one of the things on there that's going to be, we probably need to get is a new chipper. I mean, a lot of this stuff revolves around, we need chippers and stuff. And we need to go to people's property and do this and that with the chipper. And the chipper the town has is probably not going to do the job.
Hmm.
And it's pretty old. And my understanding, like Nicholas, it doesn't even work right now. So that would be a problem.
How much does a chipper cost?
Oh, a bunch. You
About
might get
30.
one $20,000-$30,000.
Holy mackerel. Can't
Yeah,
you
they're not-
rent them?
Yeah, they're about $200 a day.
Wow.
They are
That's-
not cheap.
It's a lot of days before we get to $30,000.
Yeah, but either way, it's still a lot of money. So rather than rent one, you'd be better off in the long run. You could probably get 10 to 20 years out of a chipper if it was well maintained.
Is that something that Public Works has? Do they maintain it?
I would think so, yes. If it belongs to them, they would have to maintain it, whether it be through an agency or through their own people.
So is that something that Public Works needs to ask for money for?
That would be something Public Works could ask for money for. It's a budget item. It's just like everything else we're trying to get. They're all budget items.
Would they do that, Todd?
Would they what?
I was asking Todd if they would do that.
You know, I think it's a good idea to have things come from the Fire Mitigation Committee. You know, a lot of times we're trying to keep the Public Works guys focused more on roads and whatnot nowadays, but if the fire mitigation committee comes out and has a recommendation to say, hey, let's get say a chipper that's equivalent quality to the one that's in Teller County, for example, that has a little bit more capability, and then, hopefully get a good 10, 20 years out of it, then I would suggest going ahead and making that recommendation.
This is actually kind of a thought exercise tonight, was to get to have some discussion and to begin to think about where we would want to ask for money that would be enhancements to the fire and fuels mitigation efforts of our town. How it's budgeted, where it comes from is really not the focus, but rather what. And that would lead to sort of how much. And then, because if we were to do an ask, let's say at the mayor's forum, it would be great if we could say to people, we really are needing financial resources beyond what the town has to fund some very real projects. Here's a list of 5 things that we have right now. We have emergency notification. We need signage. We need removal of nuisance trees. We need to pay professional grant writers to help us get more money. We need equipment like chippers. It would help develop the story to help people understand, if I give money for the fire and fuels mitigation effort of Green Mountain Falls, what is it going to go to? And that's kind of what I was looking for tonight, is some ideas and thoughts from the committee that would be helpful for us to frame up a financial ask of people as to how that money would be spent. So
it sounds like you're kind of segueing into the next topic with their 5-year plan.
Yeah, sort of.
Can we ask for one of those planes that puts out fires?
No,
Oh, yeah,
but they,
don't
Sure
go
you
there.
they
can.
don't.
Not that it's going to do any
No,
good.
I came out of the FAA and I've had people ask me questions along those lines before. Unless you got $1 million a year to throw away, don't even bother.
So, Todd, do you have any additional thoughts on this thought exercise we were just in here on the funding request? Because this really was something you asked us to take up.
Yeah, because we're trying to go into like a priority, at least semi-priority based budgeting for 2023, developing basically my thoughts are developed risk, and then we look at priorities from that and also get a list of priorities from the board as well. But it helps to get the list from the committees of the high priority items that they see. One of the things that I think you're going to see a lot more of is anything that might involve construction we'll probably be going out and trying to request grants to develop the concept plans and the engineering data before we actually go out and try to actually do the work. It's be something similar to what we've done on the Stilling basins here recently, where we had Wilson and company basically develop the package that went out for bid. And it's one of those things where I think you're going to see us do a lot more of that. We tend to get a lot more known quantities that way. So basically, everyone's bidding on the same engineering drawings and whatnot. And so for things that involve construction, you might keep that in mind. But yeah, trying to develop the ultimate end goal of trying to develop all these priorities is trying to go into at least a pseudo priority based budgeting scheme for 2023.
I have a quick question for you, Todd.
Yeah.
The town marshal.
Uh-huh.
I was told that the town marshal, one of their responsibilities was to govern compliance with our town ordinances?
Yeah, code enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah, we're looking at, I think we have a deputy bid out, maybe posted already. But code compliance and code enforcement, I think we're looking hard at how to roll that in with our law enforcement folks. Because right now, we really don't have anyone that goes around other than maybe myself and kind of points out, hey, these guys are building something they shouldn't be building right now. But yeah, it's one of those things where we do know about it. We are looking at code enforcement, code compliance, and we just need to possibly get this deputy position hopefully filled.
Okay.
But yeah, back in the days of Chris Randina, she actually wrote the letters out to folks, and she'd actually go around and drive around and look for dead trees. I know we got a letter from her because we had a dead tree on our property, and then I called her back and said, do you know of anyone that we could get to cut it down? And she had a list of people from the business license that she had. So yeah, we know there's a hole, and we're going to have to try to fill it.
Okay, thanks everybody for your input on this. This again, I'll say this was a thought exercise that we're going to continue to go through on a regular basis as we move forward with the 5-year plan preparation and also for 2023 budgeting, our input on that for the town. So I urge you to continue to think about funding requirements that we know are essential to a successful fuels mitigation effort. And with that, Nate, were you going to give us the update on the Mile High Youth Corps and Co-swap grant status?
Yeah, just basic updates. We tomorrow they're starting a training class up there, and they're going to be doing some cutting, so we'll get a little bonus cutting out of that. But the main work is going to start a week from today on the 6th. And Don and I were out doing the fencing and things like that on Friday. I'll probably finish the signage tomorrow. And as far as the slash removal, we're just going to kind of see how things go. The prescription allows for 12 inches of slash to be left on the ground. So we might have hot spots where things need to be removed or whatever. So we'll have to just play it by ear with that. I'm going to meet with the crew leaders who are actually on the job next Friday at the end of their training week, and just touch base directly with them and talk about just logistics of the project and familiarize them with the site and things like that.
Do you need any assistance from anyone on the Fire Mitigation Advisory Committee in any aspect of this project?
I mean, it might be good for people to just, I don't know, check in and lay eyes on the site, I guess. But for the most part, I'll be checking in at least once or twice a week. And making sure that they have the reporting requirements understood. That's part of next Friday's meeting. But that on the 6th is when I invited Dan. I believe Dan accepted that one, and David Paletti. and up for that initial meeting the morning that they start. So just kind of see what happens after that.
Hey, Nate, I just wanted to interject, if you don't mind. They won't be able to go on site, the work site, until Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because it'll be locked up. Right?
Who? I'm sorry.
The committee members won't be able to access the work area.
Well, I'm just saying if there was someone that, I don't know, if we set up a schedule or something of people, I don't know, checking in, they could get in other ways, I suppose, from Kelly's property is pretty much going to be that central point of ingress and egress there, at least to start. And then there's that town right of way that we used to go up through the middle there by the actual Thomas family parcel. And then access points down to the west. So, I mean, I think, well, I kind of want to just see how it goes. And then, you know, if I feel like that we need more constant eyes on the ground, then maybe that's something that would help. But I just won't know until this project starts and kind of see their workflow and how everything's progressing.
But if you need help, you'll ask for it.
Yes.
Hey, Nate, thank you.
Yeah.
Final item in old business, the 5-year plan. This is something that we need to begin working on to develop as a committee, a plan that is really formalized such that, you know, it provides the roadmap for the town in terms of funding requirements, how we prioritize projects over the next 5 years, whether it's landscape size, mitigation efforts that are on town-owned land, or whether it's smaller projects. So what I would like to ask all of you individually, if you can begin to outline from your perspective what you think a plan would look like for the next 5 years. How, you know, sort of at a really high level, what would you think would be the elements of a 5-year plan that we can begin to put together? We're not going to do that tonight, but in the next month, you know, before our next meeting, if you could begin to, you know, in some of your spare time, to just begin writing down some things that you think would be 5-year plan type activities, goals, projects that we need to develop as a committee. So any questions on that?
Hey, David, if I could add something real quick, you could also think of that as a subset to our comp plan.
Yeah, right.
You know, you got this overarching massive comp plan, and you could pull out a 5-year plan as a subset from the items in that.
Right. Good point. So use that as a reference document. Yeah. Any questions as to what we need to do with that?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, Todd.
The comprehensive
back in-
plan that was developed by the town,
Yeah.
and paid for what, 2 years ago or 3 years ago?
Yeah, it's basically set in motion, I think, in either 2018 or 2019 is when it got approved, and it's out on the town website. It's very full encompassing. It pretty much touches on about everything.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, Nate, the last 2 items under correspondence were things that you included. Could you give us some color on that?
Yeah, I just had, these are handouts that were, have been up at the Woodland Park Town Hall. One was just explaining the stage 2 fire ban. It looks like it was developed locally by Woodland Park, Teller County. One was a wildfire evacuation checklist from University of Nevada. And then this Firewise USA site has a ton of information about all these wildfire research fact sheets. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that to the attention of the committee and just say that I can add those either as further links on our website for information or do anything else people think is valuable with that. I'm gonna bring up the
Nate, can you email those out?
yeah. Mhm.
I think they're all online.
I have a question.
I mainly want to email just so it reminds me to look at it.
Okay.
We can't put anything in the post office, but there's that board outside the post office where you park. We could put it up there, couldn't we?
Yes.
Huh.
I will also
no-
add that if there's things that, we got that new welcome sign or sign it's largely geared towards the hiking community. But if there's things on that you might want posted on that, get them to either me and I'll get them to my wife, Nancy, because she kind of runs the trail ambassador program, and Parks Rec and Trails really controls what goes on that. But we can kind of get some integration going here. And if there's things that you'd like to see on that, just
Todd,
let us know.
excuse me. Doesn't the town have a sign making machine?
Yes, we do. It's more for like the no parking signs and the street signs and stuff like that. If we want to do the signage like is on those new cedar posts, that needs to go out to a different sign company.
No, not that fancy. I was just thinking there where that Trails Ambassador thing is, that new one. If they could just put the stage 2 fire restrictions on that,
It's actually up already. We have stage 2 fire restriction on
that board.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. What we basically say is no open fires, no open
Okay.
flames.
Could I just had back on the distribution where to put this. I don't know how good church attendance is. Do a lot of people attend church?
Not as many as used to.
Well, okay. I'm just wondering if the both they have that food pantry, don't they? That's run out of the church, but then also worship services. Might be a possible distribution point for people. The other thing is that when school is in session, maybe there's some way that these materials could be distributed through the schools and kids could take them home or something like that.
That's a possibility, but we still have to have them printed up.
Yeah, it's expensive.
We asked for some money in the budget for 2022 for printing, and basically we're not given those funds.
Yeah. Well,
Oh.
future reference.
Yeah, exactly.
So the other thing I just wanted to, I added the documents, the Ready, Set, Go and the rapid fire home assessment to this list of what things people can do on our website. And so periodically I try to remember to make a Facebook post about certain things, but
So the Ready, Set, Go is the one, and the checklist is the one that Rich prepared for us and we reviewed in the last meeting. And there were subsequent review, and we have now posted it, right?
yes,
Okay.
It's posted? Where's it posted? On the website?
yes,
Okay, but we're not gonna
Right.
hand them out, I take it.
right here. We could print a certain number for town hall. We don't get a lot of visitors, but we could try to put stuff down at the post office. I did notice that there are those mountain jackpots sitting there. So we could perhaps put a stack there and just beg for forgiveness instead of ask for permission, essentially, and just
I'm not advocating, that was Rich's original suggestion, I think.
Mhm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Rich. Are you still there, Rich? You're sort of
I'm
in the.
still here. It just got dark. I haven't turned any lights on yet.
So,
You
yeah,
know,
we
I'm
could-
not sure how long the school year for the kids to be in school ended last Thursday. But I can check and see if we were to get all this information, Nate, down to Danny or whoever would still be working. Because there may still be some work days, to see if they could email this stuff out. It wouldn't have to be printed. It could be emailed to all the parents,
Okay,
like a school
Falls into the
bulletin.
category of education.
Right.
And I want a volunteer committee on education, and I want a program that is written up and developed that says how we're going to pursue education. So we need somebody that will say, I'll take that on. I'll take that project on and develop that scope of work.
Which is one of our action items for next meeting.
That is correct. Thank you, Dan.
Yes.
But in the meantime, if I were to do that, would that be helpful?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll call tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Was that it, Nate, on your list of correspondence?
yeah,
Okay. All right, we are at the end of our agenda. I thank everybody for this meeting on Memorial Day. I hope it didn't mess up your plans too much. Let's talk about our next meeting date. Is it possible that we could meet on the 22nd?
What day of the week is that?
That is a Wednesday.
I can.
Kelly can. Rich, can you?
I think so.
Dan, can you?
I think I can make that happen.
Okay, at this usual time, 6:30.
Okay.
Let me check something real quick here.
Please, if that's what we decide on, please just send out a calendar invite.
Yeah, 6:30. Yes. If everybody is in agreement, we will plan on the 22nd to be our next meeting in lieu of the 27th. Agreed?
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
I will send out the calendar invite on that just to make sure it's on our calendar. Thanks everybody for your participation tonight and some thought exercises that we went through. I think it was good, and look forward to our next meeting when we can continue to develop some of these things. So everybody's got some homework assignments between
thanks.
now and the 22nd.
Nick, are you raising your hand?
I am raising my hand. Just one little idea, because Rich brought up a good point about the alarm. Real quick, if you guys ever wanted to have a discussion with Darlene, she had mentioned that we would be able to utilize for an early warning system her bells. All right, so she may be able to kind of calibrate or reprogram those things for you guys in the meantime until you guys could all figure that out. So, if,
at Church in the Wildwood?
yes, so if you guys wanted to get with Darlene, I already had that discussion with her, and you may be able to, utilize that power. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Nick.
You're welcome.
All right, unless anyone has something else, we will adjourn this meeting at, let's see here, 8:44 on my watch. Good night, everybody. Thanks again.